The Black Death, caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, erupted in the 14th century and became the deadliest pandemic in recorded history. Originating in Central Asia, it traveled through trade routes like the Silk Road before reaching Europe in 1347. Spread mainly by fleas carried on rats, the disease decimated cities with terrifying speed. Victims suffered high fevers, vomiting, and painful swelling of lymph nodes called buboes. Death often followed within 3 days. Estimates suggest that between 75 and 200 million people died, roughly 1/3 of Europe's population. Entire towns vanished, food production halted, and labor shortages reshaped the feudal system. Survivors demanded higher wages, accelerating the decline of serfdom and shifting power toward the working class. The Catholic Church, unable to stop the plague, lost public trust, leading to religious upheaval and the rise of new philosophical movements. Quarantine, first practiced in Venice where ships isolated for 40 days, was born during this period. The Black Death transformed medicine, economics, and society, marking the beginning of Europe's transition from the medieval world to the modern age. Smallpox, caused by the variola virus, was one of humanity's most feared and devastating diseases. For centuries, it spread through droplets or direct contact, causing high fever, severe fatigue, and a blistering rash that left deep scars on survivors. With a fatality rate often exceeding 30%, it killed rulers, soldiers, and entire families indiscriminately. During the 18th century alone, it was estimated to claim over 400,000 lives in Europe each year. The turning point came in 1796 when Edward Jenner developed the first successful vaccine using material from cowpox sores, proving immunity could be induced safely. This discovery not only changed medicine, it gave birth to modern immunology. By the 20th century, smallpox killed between 300 and 500 million people globally, spreading through trade and colonial expansion. However, through coordinated global vaccination campaigns led by the World Health Organization, the disease was finally eradicated in 1980, the first and only human disease ever completely eliminated. Smallpox forever altered global health policies, proving that coordinated science, logistics, and political will could achieve what once seemed impossible: the permanent defeat of a deadly pathogen. The 1918 influenza pandemic, known as the Spanish flu, was one of the deadliest outbreaks in human history. Caused by the H1N1 influenza A virus, it emerged during the final months of World War I and spread rapidly through crowded military camps and transport ships. Within weeks, the virus reached every continent, infecting an estimated 1/3 of the global population, over 500 million people. Unlike typical flu strains, it struck young, healthy adults hardest, overwhelming immune systems with a deadly overreaction called a cytokine storm. Symptoms included sudden fever, chills, severe fatigue, and cyanosis, skin turning blue from oxygen deprivation. Entire cities shut down as hospitals overflowed and mass graves filled daily. Global death toll estimates range from 50 to 100 million. The Spanish flu forced governments to impose quarantines, mask mandates, and public health surveillance for the first time on a global scale. It revolutionized virology, inspiring long-term influenza research and the creation of international health organizations. The pandemic's lessons permanently changed how humanity prepares for future viral outbreaks. COVID-19, caused by the novel coronavirus SARS-CoV-2, emerged in late 2019 in Wuhan, China, and rapidly became the first truly global pandemic of the digital age. The virus spreads through airborne droplets and surface contact, with symptoms ranging from mild fever and cough to respiratory failure and multi-organ damage. Within months, international travel and global trade collapsed as governments imposed unprecedented lockdowns to slow transmission. By 2025, over 770 million confirmed cases and nearly 7 million deaths had been recorded worldwide, though excess mortality estimates are higher. The crisis accelerated development of mRNA vaccines by companies like Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna, marking a revolution in immunology. Massive genomic sequencing and contact tracing technologies transformed epidemiology, while misinformation on social media created parallel battles of science versus distrust. Economically, COVID-19 triggered the sharpest downturn since the Great Depression, reshaping labor systems through remote work and automation. Healthcare infrastructure was re-engineered around emergency preparedness and global cooperation. The pandemic revealed both the fragility and resilience of modern civilization, leaving behind new models for vaccines, digital communication, and crisis management that will define the 21st century. Human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, emerged in the late 20th century and grew into one of the most defining global health crises in history. The virus attacks the body's immune system, specifically targeting CD4 cells, leaving individuals vulnerable to opportunistic infections. When untreated, it develops into acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, AIDS, which became synonymous with fear and stigma during the 1980s. The first known cases appeared in 1981, initially misdiagnosed as rare cancers and pneumonia among young men. By the mid-1990s, HIV had infected over 25 million people and killed millions more. Transmission occurs through unprotected sex, contaminated needles, blood transfusions, or mother-to-child contact. At its peak, AIDS decimated entire communities in sub-Saharan Africa and reshaped global health priorities. The introduction of antiretroviral therapy, ART, in 1996 transformed HIV from a fatal disease into a manageable chronic condition, reducing global deaths by more than half. The epidemic spurred massive public awareness campaigns, medical research, and activism that dismantled prejudice and redefined how societies approach sex education, healthcare access, and human rights. Today, over 39 million people live with HIV, and while no cure exists, science continues advancing toward global control and prevention. Cholera, caused by the bacterium Vibrio cholerae, is a waterborne disease that triggers severe diarrhea and dehydration, often killing within hours if untreated. Originating in the Ganges Delta of India, cholera spread worldwide through trade routes during the 19th century, resulting in 7 major pandemics. Its hallmark symptom, rice water stool, quickly depletes the body's fluids, leading to rapid death in extreme cases. Before the modern era, its cause was unknown, and outbreaks devastated cities from London to New York. The critical turning point came in 1854, when Dr. John Snow traced a London outbreak to a contaminated public water pump, proving that cholera spread through water, not bad air. This discovery founded modern epidemiology and revolutionized urban sanitation systems. Throughout the 1800s, cholera claimed tens of millions of lives, prompting massive public health reforms, underground sewer systems, clean water projects, and waste management laws. Even today, cholera persists in poor and disaster-stricken regions, infecting 1.3 to 4 million people annually. Though easily preventable with sanitation and rehydration therapy, cholera remains a constant reminder that safe water and hygiene are not universal, making it one of the most influential diseases in shaping modern public health. Tuberculosis, caused by the bacterium Mycobacterium tuberculosis, has haunted humanity for millennia. Evidence of the disease exists in Egyptian mummies over 4,000 years old. It spreads through airborne droplets when an infected person coughs or sneezes, often attacking the lungs but capable of spreading to other organs. Known historically as consumption or the White Plague, TB was the leading cause of death in Europe and North America during the 19th century. By the 1800s, it accounted for 1 in 4 deaths. The discovery of the bacterium by Robert Koch in 1882 marked a turning point, proving that TB was caused by a specific microorganism, not heredity or poor lifestyle. Sanatoriums were established worldwide, isolating patients in open-air environments believed to aid recovery. In 1944, the antibiotic streptomycin became the first effective treatment, transforming TB from a death sentence to a curable disease. Yet drug-resistant strains have since reemerged, infecting 10 million people annually and killing over 1 million each year. TB's long history shaped germ theory, medical diagnostics, and antibiotic development, making it one of the most scientifically influential diseases in human history. Malaria, caused by Plasmodium parasites transmitted through the bites of Anopheles mosquitoes, is one of humanity's oldest and most persistent killers. The disease infects the liver and red blood cells, leading to high fever, chills, anemia, and, in severe cases, organ failure or death. Its history stretches back to ancient civilizations. References appear in Chinese, Egyptian, and Greek texts over 3,000 years old. Malaria shaped human evolution itself. In regions where the disease was common, natural selection favored individuals with the sickle cell trait, a genetic mutation that offers partial resistance but also causes sickle cell anemia when inherited from both parents. This biological trade-off remains one of evolution's most striking examples. During the 20th century, malaria caused more deaths than any war, crippling economies and colonization efforts in tropical regions. The discovery of quinine and later chloroquine provided early treatments, while insecticide DDT drastically reduced mosquito populations in the mid-1900s. However, drug and insecticide resistance later reversed many gains. Today, malaria still infects over 200 million people annually, killing around 600,000, mostly children in sub-Saharan Africa. Modern efforts like bed nets, rapid testing, and the RTSS vaccine represent humanity's ongoing battle with a disease that has silently guided our biology, geography, and global health strategies for millennia. Polio, short for poliomyelitis, is a viral disease that primarily affects the nervous system and can cause irreversible paralysis within hours. Caused by the polio virus, it spreads through contaminated food, water, or direct contact, thriving in unsanitary conditions. For centuries, outbreaks struck fear across communities, but the modern era saw its most devastating waves during the early to mid-20th century. In 1952 alone, the United States recorded over 57,000 cases, leaving thousands of children and adults permanently paralyzed or dependent on iron lungs for breathing. The breakthrough came in 1955 when Dr. Jonas Salk introduced the first effective inactivated polio vaccine, IPV, followed by Albert Sabin's oral vaccine, OPV, in 1961. Global vaccination campaigns drastically reduced infections, and by 1988, the Global Polio Eradication Initiative set a mission to eliminate the virus entirely. Since then, cases have dropped by more than 99%, with wild polio virus now endemic in only a few regions. Polio's legacy transformed public health logistics, proving that large-scale immunization could save millions. The disease's near eradication remains one of medicine's greatest triumphs and a blueprint for global cooperation in preventing future viral threats. Leprosy, caused by the bacterium Mycobacterium leprae, is one of the world's oldest known diseases, with evidence dating back over 4,000 years. It primarily affects the skin, peripheral nerves, and mucous membranes, leading to disfigurement, numbness, and muscle weakness. Contrary to centuries of myth, leprosy is only mildly contagious and spreads mainly through prolonged close contact and respiratory droplets. For most of human history, it was misunderstood as a divine punishment or moral failing. Those infected were banished to remote leper colonies or segregated villages, most famously Kalaupapa in Hawaii and Carville in Louisiana. This social isolation created one of the longest-lasting stigmas in medical history. The modern turning point came in 1873 when Norwegian scientist Gerhard Armauer Hansen discovered the bacterium, proving leprosy was an infectious disease, not a curse. By the 1980s, the World Health Organization introduced multi-drug therapy, MDT, which effectively cured millions and made leprosy a globally controlled disease. Today, fewer than 200,000 new cases occur annually, mostly in developing countries. Yet the centuries of fear and discrimination it caused permanently influenced global health ethics, human rights in medicine, and society's understanding of disease and dignity. Syphilis, caused by the bacterium Treponema pallidum, is a sexually transmitted infection that forever changed the course of public health, medicine, and even history. The disease first appeared in Europe in the late 15th century, shortly after Columbus's voyages, leading historians to debate whether it originated in the New World or had long existed in a hidden form. Whatever its origin, it spread rapidly across continents, earning the nickname the Great Pox. Syphilis progresses in stages, beginning with painless sores followed by rashes, fever, and fatigue. If untreated, it advances into a latent phase that can damage the brain, heart, and nervous system years later, often resulting in blindness, paralysis, or insanity. Before antibiotics, it was a slow and torturous killer that struck the famous and the poor alike. Artists, kings, and philosophers such as Al Capone and possibly even Beethoven were rumored to have suffered from it. In 1909, Paul Ehrlich discovered Salvarsan, the first effective treatment, marking the dawn of modern chemotherapy. Penicillin, introduced in the 1940s, finally made syphilis easily curable. However, unethical experiments like the Tuskegee study exposed the dark side of medical research. Syphilis remains a moral and scientific turning point in understanding infection medicine and human ethics. The Justinian Plague, which struck the Byzantine Empire in 541 AD, was one of the earliest recorded pandemics and arguably the most catastrophic event of late antiquity. Caused by Yersinia pestis, the same bacterium later responsible for the Black Death, it originated in Egypt and spread through Mediterranean trade routes to Constantinople, the empire's capital. Within months, it had engulfed the known world, from Persia to Western Europe. At its peak, the plague killed an estimated 5,000 people per day in Constantinople alone. Historians estimate that between 30 and 50 million people, roughly half the population of the Mediterranean region, died during successive waves over 2 centuries. Victims experienced high fever, delirium, swollen lymph nodes, and rapid death, often within days. The labor force collapsed, farmlands went untended, and military campaigns halted. The empire, already strained by wars and debt, never fully recovered. The pandemic accelerated the decline of the Byzantine economy, weakened its control over territories. Beyond politics, the Justinian Plague reshaped humanity's understanding of disease transmission, linking urban density, trade, and contagion for the first time in recorded history. The third plague pandemic began in Yunnan Province, China in 1894 and became the first global epidemic of the modern medical era. Like its predecessors, it was caused by Yersinia pestis, but this time scientists could finally study it under laboratory conditions. As the disease spread through trade and colonization routes to India, Southeast Asia, Africa, and the Americas, it killed more than 12 million people, primarily in India and China. This pandemic marked a turning point in microbiology. In 1894, bacteriologists Alexandra Yersin and Kitasato Shibasaburo independently identified the plague bacillus, confirming its microbial cause. 2 years later, researchers discovered that fleas carried the infection from rats to humans, a finding that redefined vector-borne disease understanding. For the first time, plague containment focused on sanitation, rat control, and port inspections instead of superstition or prayer. The third pandemic also highlighted the power of colonial public health systems and the dangers of social inequality. Poor neighborhoods suffered most due to overcrowding and unsanitary conditions. By the mid-20th century, antibiotics and sanitation reforms finally subdued the plague. Its study established the foundation for epidemiology, field surveillance, and international cooperation in tracking infectious diseases. Measles, caused by the measles morbillivirus, is one of the most contagious diseases ever known, capable of infecting up to 90% of unvaccinated individuals exposed to it. Transmitted through airborne droplets, it can linger in the air for hours, making crowded environments perfect breeding grounds. Symptoms begin with fever, cough, and red eyes, followed by a telltale rash that spreads across the body. In severe cases, it leads to pneumonia, brain inflammation, and death. Before vaccines, measles was an unavoidable part of childhood. Each year, it infected hundreds of millions and killed more than 2 million people, mostly children. The breakthrough came in 1963 when Dr. John Enders and colleagues developed the first effective vaccine, dramatically reducing global deaths by over 90% within decades. However, the disease remains a powerful indicator of vaccination success and failure. Outbreaks still occur where immunization rates drop, often due to misinformation or poor healthcare access. In 2019 alone, measles killed over 200,000 people worldwide, despite being preventable. Beyond its medical impact, measles shaped modern immunization programs and the concept of herd immunity. Its persistence reminds the world that progress against disease depends not only on scientific discovery, but on sustained global trust in vaccination. SARS, or Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, emerged in late 2002 in Guangdong, China, and quickly demonstrated how a local outbreak could become an international emergency. Caused by the coronavirus SARS-CoV, it spreads through respiratory droplets and contaminated surfaces, attacking the lungs and triggering severe pneumonia. Patients developed high fever, dry cough, shortness of breath, and in critical cases, respiratory failure. The virus spread to 29 countries within months, infecting more than 8,000 people and killing 774 before being contained in 2003. Though relatively small in numbers, SARS had an enormous global impact. Fear paralyzed economies, shut down travel routes, and exposed the vulnerabilities of public health systems unprepared for airborne epidemics. The SARS outbreak prompted rapid advances in disease surveillance, cross-border communication, and emergency response. It also led to the creation of the International Health Regulations Framework, ensuring faster reporting and global coordination during future crises. Scientists traced the virus's origin to bats, transmitted to humans through civet cats, marking it as one of the first major zoonotic coronavirus outbreaks. SARS was humanity's warning shot, a glimpse of what unchecked viral spread could do. Its lessons directly shaped the world's initial response to COVID-19 17 years later.